Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all good on your Thursday evening. On tonight's show, then we will, of course, be looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Sheffield United at the Valley. Plus, we've got a couple of new signings to talk about as well. Joining me to do all of those things, first up top right, is Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right. I'm just looking at my Christmas tree and wondering if I should take it down now.
Well, if it's lasted this long, you might as well leave it up for next year, really.
Yeah,
You could be an early adopter of the Christmas season again, like you always are. Also, bottom of the screen there, not sure at what point he puts his Christmas tree up, is Paul Clements. How you doing, Paul? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, no, 1st of December, pretty much traditionally, and down on the 6th. So I keep it real. But no, you're saving yourself a job, Mark. Very efficient.
Yeah, very good. I heard my very first, or it will be Christmas before you know it, on about the 29th of December. I was like, that's literally 363 days early or something. But there we go. When I was getting my hair cut, I remember being in the barber, was like, really already? But anyway, we're not here to talk about Christmas. That's been and gone. We are here to talk about Saturday's home game with Sheffield United. We're going to hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, later on in the show as well. We're going to hear from Nick from the Sheffield United Way pod as well. But the top half of the show, we're going to talk those new signings. We're going to hear again from Nathan Jones as he introduces Harry Clark and Lyndon Dykes to his Addicts squad. We want to hear from you guys as well. Good evening to everybody who's joining us in the chat. Let us know your thoughts on the two new arrivals, and let's get greedy. How many more do you want as well midway through the January transfer window? So you can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can head over to the live chat section of our YouTube page and stick a comment in there. Mark, before we hear from Nathan Jones then, so a couple of new boys in the door. Lyndon Dykes, the latest one. He arrived today on effectively a permanent deal, but until the end of the season. So what would you call that? A short-term deal, I guess. And Harry Clark arrived at the start of the week on loan from Ipswich. So a striker and a right-sided defender. What was just your initial reaction to those two?
I feel whelmed. So I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just feeling whelmed. Clark, the right side wasn't where we needed it. And I understand getting a fit body in defence was necessary because we just can't trust Burke and Bell at all. And we've discussed Macca's shortcomings a lot this season. Dykes, I think, is good cover. And I mean, what we have added, which I did think was a good thing, was experience. And, you know, the difference between getting a loan, so like some 18-year-old kid from a Premiership team, you've brought in experience, which is a good thing. So, you know, you're not going to get people panicking there. Dykes, I don't know how he's going to fit in up front, but again, it's just another string on that bow. So I'm not against that at all. I think we all know where we need somebody, but as Nathan mentioned earlier, and you're playing the clip, you know, there is not a dearth of left backs available. So I'm middling with it, shall we say. I'm not sort of like tearing what's left of my hair out. I'm not sort of like throwing my hat in the air in celebration. So, you know, we'll see, shall we say. It's a slow boil.
Yeah, I mean, given the hair situation, I'd be keeping the hat firmly on the head personally. But Paul, before we go really in depth to each player that's come in, just same question as I gave to Mark. What's your initial feeling from those two coming in? Robert was first one in the chat. He says 2 new signings and hopefully more to come, asking if they'll feature on Saturday. Well, we'll hear a little bit from Nathan Jones in the team news section as well, and he sort of explains their fitness, but that'll be a part of the conversation. Particularly, but yeah, Mark was whelmed. Are you over, under? Where are you?
Probably about the same place as Mark right now. What I am pleased to see though is Nathan bringing more Championship experience, because we saw going into this season that we invested quite heavily compared to recent years, but a fair amount of that recruitment centered around League One experienced players or players having spent quite a bit of time in that division over recent years, combined with a couple that had been flirting with some Premiership football and some Championship ex-Luton players in particular. So I'm pleased. I mean, Lyndon Dykes, he's played over 150 games in the Championship, and I think that Harry Clark's not far from 100 appearances. And so between them, at least we've got a bit of established Championship kind of standard footballer quality that's come in. And we'll deep dive, as you said, Louis, hopefully a bit further with them. But that's a good signal of intent. I just think we need fixes, as Mark said, in certain other areas, particularly in that left wing back slot and left-sided defence, because we've got a little bit of injury proneness this season in that area, combined with a Gillespie who did great things in League One, but always had a risk in him in the game. And I think that's translating into more risks as he's coming up against pacier players in the Championship. So I think there's more recruitment to be done, but Nathan hasn't denied that's the case and they're still working on it. So building bricks, I think, and something to look forward to as we close in towards the end of the window.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's hear what the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, made of his 2 new signings. He spoke to Terry earlier on today.
Straight after the game, it's a big window for us, this window, and the second to be in a better position for the second half of the season. We've signed Harry Clark, and now we're hearing Lyndon Dykes too, which it was a great addition. How will they affect the side, and can we expect more if we're going to be greedy?
Well, yeah, we want to expect more, like in terms of that. But we're delighted with Harry, and we're delighted with Lyndon, because it's 2, real good Championship players with real good Championship experience, players that have played regularly at this level. And players that we think come in and significantly improve our squad. Now, look, what we want to do is, we worked so hard last year to get to a level, and we want to sign players that a year ago we couldn't sign, and that's what we've done. We've managed to in both windows, improve the squad significantly to be competitive at Championship level, and that's what this window's about. And we've already done that with the initial 2 signings, and yes, we want to strengthen further.
With the incomings, are you under any pressure to release other players from the squad, either on loan or permanently?
I'm under no pressure to do anything, but what will happen is, what we can't do is have a big squad. Today we had probably the biggest squad we've had for a long time, and with that comes the difficult decisions of 1, to pick a bench, 2, are you giving people enough game time, 3, are they then continuing their development, and once any of those return a negative answer, then that's when you have to think about loans and think about being fair to everyone. But what we will do is make sure that we're not just being fair to everyone. We have to protect ourselves, because, as I said, we were very fair to certain players and letting them go out on loan and getting game time, but we left ourselves short for that first half of the season. We won't do that again.
Yeah, interesting comments there about the players that we ended up sending out on loan. The likes of Dan Carner, Mika and Bick. And the gas man, of course, who's out on loan, but everyone seems to have forgot it existed. But I certainly did at times. But the 2 that came in, let's focus in on the first one that came in then, Harry Clark. So right-sided defender on loan until the end of the season, 24 years old, been around a bit, played in the 6-0 win for Ipswich against us at the Valley a couple of years ago. What have you made of him? So the part of the question mark is if he's going to be right wing back or right centre back. We still don't know at this moment in time as to whether James Bree is going to stay. As it stands, his last game will be Saturday, so it's an option coming in on that side where we may lose one. We've already lost Burke to injury, obviously, at times this season as well. I mean, does he get the pulses flowing for you, Harry Clark?
Well, the big sort of like red flag is that he hasn't had much game time this season, and I think he's, from what I can remember, he's had a couple of 90 minutes in sort of like September, October time, but sort of like hasn't really made it since. I mean, Nathan said, he's really fit, he's kept himself really fit, but it's that match sharpness, that's what I think you're missing. And can you afford to bring in a player and then try and bed them in for 3-4 games until they're back? Ideally we wanted people fitter than Roussillon, who came in, fitter than Hernandez, who came in. So, if Nathan reckons he's fit enough at 24, who could go straight in, I would suggest it because we'd think Burke's not going to be back. Ramsey if he's going to be on that side, he's going to push Ramsey further round and have like Lloyd in the middle and this guy next to him. It's a tough one. I mean, I know they said he can play anywhere along the back, but unless his name comes up on a roulette wheel, will he see him on the left side? It is a case of wait and see. I mean, he played in the 6-0 against us, but as he played in defence, he probably had slippers on, and a good book, because we did not trouble that defence one iota. So, it's one of those things. I don't remember him. So Ipswich fans, I've seen 50-50 towards him. People saying, "Oh, we'll do a job for you," and it's good for Ipswich. They send him out, get him fit or whatever, back to them. And he did play in their promotion-winning side. So experience, like we said before, it is a kind of wait and see kind of thing. I mean, to form an opinion just yet would probably be slightly foolish. So, I mean, he looks a bit of a lump. So if he can put it about a bit and stick a few on some people, when we played Birmingham, I'd be quite happy with him kicking Jay Stansfield from one side to the other. But I would be happy if anyone did that.
Yeah, well, you certainly have it in for Jay Stansfield, don't you? Yeah, I don't really know why, but there we go. Yeah, Mark mentioned it there. The red flag, as said, it's a big flashing red alarm siren for me. Paul, is obviously the lack of game time this season. He's played a little bit of under-21s football, not a great deal. Nathan, as Mark referenced, says that he's kept himself to a level in terms of fitness, but I mean, we might have to ease him in. There might be an element of that because he hasn't played games, and I just know the last thing we need is a player who comes in and isn't fit enough to get going relatively quickly. So hopefully this will be a sort of an exception to the rule where someone's barely played all season, but it turns out they're really, really fit for some reason.
Yeah, well, I hope it's an exception to the rule as well, because as Mark says, bringing in Roussillon, who I still maintain has got quality, but clearly no fitness for whatever reason right now, and players like Hernandez unfit, are examples of arguably a bit of waste of wages and not much impact for the club. So you would hope somebody like Harry Clarke has maintained a level of fitness, but I can only imagine that Ramsey's fit enough to come back in this weekend, because if he's not, I think we really will be struggling. You cannot afford to put a player who's had so few minutes this year into a side, even probably for 60, 70 minutes. He's going to have to work with him and stress test, as Mark says, on a match day. How does he fare? You can do whatever you want on the training pitch and in the gym. When the strenuous game time starts to play on your mind and on your body, and you're being tackled heavily and all the rest of it, it's a completely different ball game. And so, as I say, I hope that Ramsey is sufficiently fit to return. We see Clarke on the bench and he gets eased in, and maybe easing in again next Tuesday against Derby, and then take it from there. But he has got championship quality, so bolstering a defence that has seen its issues on the right side next to Lloyd, and down the right wing back side, regardless of Apter being able to play there. It just hasn't really clicked for Nathan, I think, in his mindset in utilising him there. So if Bree is off, perhaps he will fill in that position. But I still think there's more work to do on that side, the right wing back side, as well as left wing back side, regardless of whether Bree stays or not, because I just think we're too light there at the minute.
Yeah, LW says probably needed Clarke more than we think. Bree could be on his way back to Southampton next week. Ramsey still not back, and Burke is made of glass. Clarke can play right centre back and right wing back. I'll be interested to see if Ramsey is back or not, really, because I feel like he's probably relatively close. Dudley says, I just hope that Harry Boy is better than the last 4 or 5 we've had from Ipswich. So, because we had Fraser came from Ipswich, Ladapo, who else have they sent us that turned out to be rubbish? I'm sure there's plenty in there. Isaac says, I understand it's January and we're trying to stay up, but it all seems a little bit short-termist. Obviously these 2 players that have come in with us are only till the end of the season. That often seems to be the way in January, though, doesn't it? Not always, of course. Like someone like Connor Coventry we picked up in January, in January, but he's still here. But sometimes you are just plugging gaps until the end of the season. Stuart feels like Clarke has a touch of the Danny Mills about him. Hopefully it's the one that defends and not the one who likes to have a Christmas off. And James says, Clarke looks like cover for Bree if he leaves Says Dykes will fight for everything. Has Bond vibes to me. I hope Lyndon Dykes has Bond vibes. I hope that won't be the case. Mark says Clark was close to Ipswich's Player of the Year in the 23-24 promotion season. There's a real player in there. Look to be competition for his signature as well. So hopefully he'll turn out to be a good one. Also, of course, we've got Lyndon Dykes who's joined on this short-term contract until the end of the season. Left Birmingham to join us, obviously former Queen's Park Rangers striker. Well, we spoke about him a couple of weeks ago, Mark, and I did say at the time, like, I ain't seen him play much, but I've covered a couple of QPR games. He actually scored in one of them, but in what I'd call the more recent one, which was still 2 years ago, he didn't have a great game. So maybe my memory is coloured a little bit by that, but I wasn't massively blown away. Clearly coming in to be some sort of physical unit to battle up against Miles Leaburn for that role and to give Miles some break, because I think Miles has been good recently, but I mean that is one hell of a role he's been asked to play. Not a great goal record, which is a bit of a running theme with a lot of our strikers, to be fair. So what can we expect from him? A lot of people in the chat have said, you know what, a bit of championship know-how, and that feels very important for us.
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing because they said about Harry Clark being close to the Ipswich Player of the Year. I'm thinking, yeah, we had Terrell Thomas finish third in ours, and that just made me laugh. Lyndon Dykes, it's an odd one because obviously his name's been linked with us quite a lot. He wants to get in the Scotland squad for the World Cup. Experienced, and is he going to compete with Leaburn? Is he going to play alongside Leaburn? It's one of those. I said, he's going to be. We know Leaburn's just done 7 games in a row, and they might be looking to rest him, which I think is a bit crazy. Sometimes I'm thinking you play your front two, who they're developing a really good, I think, feel a good partnership, and I think you would play him to his leg dropped off and then put Dykes in, but you've got that experience to come off a bench with, which can go both ways, and he tends to, he's got a 1 in 5, or was it 1 to 1, just under 5 goal ratio. But again, it's the experience he brings, and knowing this league, and knowing he's one of those players who, he'll know that if he'll get a nudge when he can go down, whether he can milk it, whether he can get something out of it, which is what Kelman and Leaburn don't have at the moment. They haven't got that streetwise, swagger which some players have, where they can feel something. We've tried it earlier in the season and we've just looked silly doing it. QPR when we conceded the goal where TT went down because he felt it, but he didn't sell it. And I think with Dykes, he's got that knowledge, same as Godden has, where he knows if he feels a tug and he knows he can go down and get something, he will do, or he won't. And I think will he offer us anything different? Experience is be the only thing he gives us, which is slightly different, because heading, shooting, whatever, you expect your strikers to be able to do those things, but it's for knowledge and stuff he can pass on, which I think will be the most important for us in this back end or half of the season, because we've shown naivety in a lot of games, and I think bringing him and Clark in should sort of slightly shore that up.
Yeah, Robert points out, of course, that they would have worked together, Dykes and Kelman, during their time at QPR. Andrew, obviously, Steve Clark, the Scotland manager, values him highly. He's very popular with his Scottish teammates because of the work he does, and I do expect he's going to come in and work very, very hard, for us up top, and it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. I mean, a couple of other people said, ABC said decent business with Dykes and Clark, solid signings. Just a shame we can't get someone that excites, someone like Jez Raksaki. I know a lot of people have noticed that he's out and about, isn't he? Jez Raksaki, I think he's gone back to Palace on loan. Jonathan says Lyndon will suit our style of play to a T. Big man up front for Kelman to play off, which is what we've lacked. Charlie should thrive playing along him. I mean, does the goal record concern you, Paul? Sometimes you get those strikers who are more sort of link-up strikers, for want of a better phrase, like the players who will bring others into the game. If we are hoping for long balls and directed balls for Dykes to bring down and to bring others into play, then maybe that's the sort of role that we see him playing in.
Yeah, well, I'm not concerned so much about the goals. I mean, in terms of championship goals, Matty Godden has clocked up 32 in his career, and Dykes has got 37. And if we heard Matty Godden was back this weekend and fit and raring to go, I think we'd be pretty pleased with that. So I'm not too worried whether it's 1 in 4, 1 in 5. He knows how to find the net, and the goals that I've seen him score, and I didn't bother looking at any of his goals in the Scottish leagues because most of it looks like non-league football, frankly. But looking at some of his championship goals, he clearly is really, really good with his head, and for a 6'2" man, he's a bit of a sniffer too in the 6-yard box. And I said to my son Josh when we were watching a highlights reel just a little bit earlier that the issue we're going to have is how much feeding to him we're going to actually provide in terms of the amount of possession we have, the amount of clear-cut chances we provide, and the quality into the box. So it's not just about throwing crosses in, but actually, it's all about that precision and putting stuff on a plate for your striker. But clearly he has done it, and at the right level. And some of the headed goals are really, really good that I've seen. So we've just got to have faith. Nathan knows what he's looking for, and that work rate that was referenced in what I've read, that's a repeated theme as well. He's a really hard worker, and we absolutely know what ingredients Nathan looks for in players that he puts across the pitch. And frankly, I mean, I think Lee Byrne has been exceptional. It's probably been his best spell. He hasn't been prolific, but in terms of what he has done and how he's been improving his heading, hold up play, sometimes bullying of defenders, he had his fair share of aerial wins and stuff, even against the Chelsea players at the weekend. For all of that lad, I mean, we know his injury record hasn't been brilliant over recent seasons, and at some point when you get to game 8, 9, 10, whatever, there's a chance that he could break down. So I actually think timing's pretty good for him to probably have a little bit of a breather, and to have somebody like Dykes with his experience coming in and giving him some relief. And I hope he hits the ground running. It's nice to have new players coming in who have got a point to prove, and particularly Dykes, who wants to go to the World Cup. So it's in his interest to get as many goals, many assists, and to prove to the Scottish management team that he is ready to serve his country over the Atlantic.
Spamfish says Nathan Jones is the reason Dykes chose us over Ipswich or Leicester. In their opinion, it can't be understated. Paul says as well, at times we've been losing the psychological battle as much as anything. Both signings would seem to redress the balance in that regard. The obvious thing that comes with that signing is more the elephant in the room, exactly as James has put it here, is the huge gap in the left side of defence. There is still there two weeks into the window. Stuart saying, where's the left wing back? Mark saying we needed a left wing back. We need to get that area sorted sooner rather than later. I think after the last league game, I think I was, I think it was Blackburn game, I said I really, really want to see us get a left wing back in, or a left-sided defender in, before we play Sheffield United. Obviously, Chelsea was not as important because it's an FA Cup game, but here we are. We're on the Thursday. I think there's been some quotes from Nathan today on Rich's Substack, which gave a little bit more indication of how much of a struggle they find to fill that role, Mark. But we need something there, don't we? And it's going to be the case of, well, do you get someone who's maybe not the quality you want for just because you need someone, or do you go with no one? I don't think we can risk no one. I mean, it's a tough one for Nathan. They're obviously still trying to find that right person, aren't they?
Yeah, but they've obviously not found someone yet. It's difficult because I read of a chat. Someone said, well, can you get someone from League One or Stroke 2? I'm thinking, well, no, you don't really want to be, looking down. To suddenly bring them into the Championship unless they were outstanding. If they were outstanding, they'd have probably been picked up by now. Do you then go for a loan? We know Nathan does not like loans. Apter played there for Oxford, didn't he? And it was okay, but we knew Oxford weren't really going to challenge us, whereas Sheffield United, bit of a different kettle of fish. It's who do you put there? I mean, if you put one of the youngsters there, like Ibby, because it negates his attacking talents, but he's sharp, he's going to get into you. You know, can you whack Karoy there on that side? Because you know, if you give Karoy instructions and say, look, we don't want you running up the wing and crossing, we know that's not what you're going to do. Just defend that area from the corner of a penalty to the touch line. Don't go any further. Just do for simple things, because Karoy can tackle. It does seem, as we've joked about, everyone gets a chance there. So you're not going to stick Luke Berry there, but you don't really have much option defensively, because we know Maka cannot go on that side. He's just not quick enough, and he just gets turned, and then he just pulled out, and then your defender short at the back. Oh yeah, I mean, I think all of us wanted someone to come in soon. It hasn't happened, so you make do and mend. And let's say anyone from those choices I've put in, you know, I'll be shouted down, and I just don't know who else I could suggest. I mean, if Kane comes back in, then he'll go with that side, but he just never looks particularly comfortable as a left back.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's loads of points in the chat. I mean, Mark's saying what he says, we might have to look downwards. We won't have the resources to sign a decent level, proven Championship left wing back. A couple of people talking about Maka, but you know, I think Rustos and Dean down the bottom there have both said they're not sure that Maka's quite up to the standard at the moment. I mean, don't forget earlier on in the season when we had a good left wing back and he was playing left centre back, then he was fine. It's quite important the partnership between your left wing back and the left centre back really shore up that side. And with all due respect, when it was, you know, Maka and TC up at Blackburn, it didn't look like it was working, did it? It felt like we were getting ripped apart and we weren't playing the ball out properly, and things weren't really working for us. So yeah, one point that Isaac's raised says the transfer strategy has been pretty poor. We signed injury-prone players or players that are aging or have poor fitness. Burke, Bell, Ernell, and then players that just aren't good enough. I think it's all about Roussillon as well in there. So I do wonder if there has been an element of, because some of the players who've come in and perhaps haven't been that fit, or have had problems being consistently fit, like Bell, who's obviously picked up knocks here and there, Burke. But when they have played, they look really good. So I do wonder, Paul, if there's an element of, for us to get players of the level or of a level, but a bit cheaper, we buy ones that are a little bit more risky. Whereas if you're someone sitting at the top of the table, you can buy someone who's that good or better, but also doesn't have a fitness record. I wonder if that's sort of the balance we've had to try and find this season, and in some cases it's not paid off.
Possibly, but I think, I mean, players have fitness tests and pre-seasons and all the rest of it. And like any player, you can have an impeccable fitness record for a season or two and then have an absolute disastrous run over 3 or 4 seasons, picking up injury after injury. I think there's probably something in it that we've gone after players with quality that haven't had the best of records and therefore might be a bit cheaper to bring in, or you can negotiate their wages down a bit because of that lesser fitness record than others. Perhaps there's something in that, but equally I think it's just we've been a bit unlucky in terms of the timing of how the injuries have come together, particularly across the back line, and hence why it hurt us for a period of the season. I think it's just bad timing. I think if you'd had one of the sides out for a little while but the other being exceptionally strong, we arguably would have probably picked up some more points and been a bit more solid throughout. It's been that area of the pitch which hasn't been lucky at all this season. And hopefully by bringing in 1 or 2 more numbers, and I've seen this on forums, there perhaps is a psychology, even if right now Harry Clark's not as fit as he will be, that you can afford, if you've got another few bodies in that area, to have an injury or two, knowing that you've got somebody else capable to step in for a period and the other person to recover, and it just keeps rotating. Maybe that's the approach now. But like Mark says, the left wing back, and I know Josh Edwards is due back soon. I think he's had a few niggly setbacks off the back of the training, but hopefully he's back soon. But regardless, if he breaks down and we do not solve that problem, in the next couple of weeks. We've got a big headache toward the end of the season if we're to persevere with a 3-5-2, just because it's interesting, as Mark was describing, you can give instructions to Croy or anybody else, but if that limits what the effectiveness of a left wing back should be doing, and that's not just defending, but it's bombing down and creating the crosses for your forwards to use. And we haven't got that luxury on the right with Bree, by the way. I mean, he's a steady player, not as electrifying form as he had when he first came in. But the bottom line is he's not a pacey player. So somewhere across those wings, you need some pace and the ability to get forward and cross. And so you can't negate all of that with the instructions to just make sure you're strong defensively or hold a position or whatever. You can change the formation and go with a flat back four and try to use whether it is Gillespie, which I don't think would be ideal, but you can try to do that. But Nathan doesn't seem interested in pursuing that type of game approach. He wants to stick with the formation that he favours and he feels confident about, which is absolutely fine. But then you've got to fix it. And no matter how hard it is to recruit in that space, those players are out there. And sometimes I think you've just got to compromise in terms of approach. And there will be under 21 Premier League players that play at left wing back that have got a pretty decent calibre, who will likely be better than a League One type player that we could look down toward as well. And I think by the end of the window, if we haven't found somebody permanent that is sort of like Championship or very high level League One grade that's played in the Championship before, we've just got to dip into that loan market because it's such a critical area of the pitch for us right now.
Well, hopefully we can do that sooner rather than later. Right, Kyle Morris has tweeted in a good joke. So I forgot this. Lyndon Dykes' shirt number has been confirmed as 99. So Kyle says when he was asked how many goals he's going to score for us, Lyndon replied hundreds and thousands. Good ice cream joke for you there. Right, let's have a quick break. When we come back, we will turn our attention to Saturday's home game with Sheffield United.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Time to look ahead now to Saturday's home game with Sheffield United at the Valley. I think it's a 3 o'clock kickoff. Disgusting. I like a 12:30 kickoff, but it's a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. If anyone's wondering what time we're going to be there. We beat Sheffield United earlier on in the season, Mark, so I suspect this will be quite an easy one for us. They've only won, I think, 7 of their last 10 Championship games. Turns out that when they lost their first 5 or 6 in a row, that wasn't the real Sheffield United, and now Chris Wilder's come in and got them playing a little bit better. We're probably a slightly different side to them as well in terms of the amount of warm bodies we have to play. What are you expecting from this one? We're going to hear a little bit more about Sheffield United later on in the show when Nick joins us. But from our point of view, we need to start winning games, don't we?
Yeah, it's a funny one. When I've watched them, I mean, it's weird. The start of the season, I think you can almost write off because the players are down tools. They did not want to play for that manager, which lets you know about the character of those kind of players. Because I'm thinking you give your all through the shirt. I mean, we look at it like that as fans and go like, you're doing a job which we would kill to do as fans, but they down tools. They didn't want to play for him. They weren't interested. They were being beaten left, right, and centre. And I mean, Wilder came back for his, I think it's 102nd time. Everyone thought, that's it. We can just turn it around. But because their mindset had been, we can't be asked, and so okay, we got a very late one. Thank you very much, Tanto. And I would take that again. They are a bit of a different side. But as I was on the Sheffield pod this week, and I was saying, our fortunes have changed slightly, but they've got a good record in the last 10, but they're still struggling to find consistency in games. So they are conceding, and they're not wiping people out totally, and they still have some vulnerabilities. But saying that, they are very attacking, and he'll get them on the front foot. They're well coached, and will we see the best version of them? Don't know. They'll probably want a bit of revenge for what we did up there, but I think anyone who looks for revenge goes out and digs 2 graves first. That's what they say. It's a tough one, but we know at home we're a slightly different beast. And if you look to the Chelsea game, and you can say, well, look, we took them on a multi-million-pound side. There were still things in that game where you're thinking, there are shoots there. When we got it back to 2-1, we were attacking, we were going for it. Okay, we switch off, and then they punish you. And we've talked about it. You give a silly chance, you get punished by a good Premiership side. The Championship, they might take 2 or 3 to punish you. If we cut out the silly mistakes, I think at home we can be pretty relentless, and they do concede. Chad had said to me they do sort of tend to concede quite late, and they tend to switch off, which would play into our hands. But again, we know our vulnerabilities, and of course they'll have looked at us and gone, right, what do we do? Have someone arrive in late into the penalty area because we've dropped too deep, so just put it on the edge, and they've got a tap home, and come down our right side because we don't have a strong left side. So, we are vulnerable. If Nathan can seal that up, I think we have enough in us to cause them problems.
Well, we'll see. Isaac says it's a different game now. They've got their daddy back, Mark? Was it the Sheffield United game that we first started doing that? Well, let's have a listen to our daddy. This is Nathan Jones looking ahead to Saturday's game with Sheffield United.
With probably, you mentioned already, Keenan Goff probably still got a smile on his face potentially because he had an outstanding game. But on the flip side of that, we lost Amari Bell to what looked like a serious injury as well, and Therese Campbell went off as well. How are they both, and how's the squad generally?
The squad's in real good shape generally. Bell was, looked far worse than he was, so that's the thing. But now, we've had no options, and that's why this constant strain. Now we've got a few more options. We've worked so hard in the last 2 or 3 months to identify players that we want to get in and want to get over the line. We've managed to get 1 in. We want to get 2 in really quickly. We want to do something. And to strengthen and to get people back in the one area where we're weak.
Two home fixtures coming up for the first time in a while, coming up against 2 sides in Sheffield United and Derby who had slow starts to the season. We had some positive results against them early on in the season, but they picked up significantly in the last 2 months. So it's going to be a different beast up against these 2 sides in the next 2 games.
But I mean, there were 2 massively competitive games, really tight games against Derby away and Sheffield United away. These are 2 teams that, big clubs, have been in the Championship, in and around the Championship. Sheffield United being in the Premier League, in very recent history. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game and difficult set of games. But then the game after and the game after that is difficult. So, it's the Championship. It's game in, game out. If you're thinking, let's have a gimme, then we're in the wrong league.
The signings that we made so far, are they up to speed? Do you have to get them fully trained up before they can figure, or can you throw them straight in, do you think?
No, look, they've both trained. Lyndon's had more game time than Harry, so we have to be not careful but sensible in that. But Lyndon's pretty much up to game. He came on against us just before Christmas, played games after that. So he's in good shape. Harry's in fantastic shape. He's a fantastic athlete, and that's why we feel he can play for Charlton. So again, we've got to be sensible, but we want them to figure pretty much instantly.
Again, there's Nathan looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Sheffield United. Team news. So he sort of implicated that the new guys would be ready to an extent, although obviously management of minutes will have to be done there, Paul. What sort of changes are we thinking of? I mean, James says that it'll be tougher than the away game. we were lucky to play Sheffield United when they weren't pulling up any souffles. So that was their first game under Wilder up there, and it will be a very, very different game now. But yeah, in terms of us, yeah, we've lost Bell, probably lost TC, or have we lost TC? We don't know, based for certain either way. But Nathan said Bell wasn't as bad as it could have been, but what does that mean? And we'll find out on Saturday. So, I mean, where do you even start to try and shape us up on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think we absolutely can hope and pray that TC is fit, because if he's not, I just have no idea what he's going to do down that left-hand side. So I really do hope that was a quick recovery and he's raring to go. I think it's inevitably Gillespie alongside Jones, and I hope Ramsey, I think he was on the cusp anyway, comes back in. If not, Goff was impressive. I think he can be given another go, but I think we'll see Clark at some point. Breed could be his last game on that other side, and then I think the really interesting question is what happens in midfield, because Cov, you would expect, definitely keeps his place, but do you bring Rankin Costello back into the side, or do we see a similar lineup to last weekend? And arguably, I thought Rankin Costello was doing really well priced that, so I hope he does come back in to the side. And then up top, will Lee Byrne be given the rest? He's in really good form, but he's been working so hard, and I would be tempted to let Dykes have a run and have Lee Byrne impacting the game later on, just for the experience and because you're going to have a hungry player wanting to get going and a point to prove alongside a player that it looks like has played before alongside in Kelman at QPR. So I'm hoping that it's the left hand side and TC that is fit of anybody that kind of like maybe in or out. I feel a bit for Doc if he does come out, but looking at their results, they've won 5 away from home, they've lost 8, they've had no draws to date this season away from home, but they've got a lot about them in there, and I think we're going to need to be quite dynamic if we're to create anything and not find them on top for long periods. So yeah, let's go with something athletic, somebody like Rankin Costello that can run forward with the ball and open up hopefully some chances for us on Saturday. But yeah, it's going to be a very different feel than the game up at Sheffield United. Hopefully less rainy, we'll be less wet than we were up there, but equally I think unfortunately Wilder's got them really going, and they're in some quite good but inconsistent form, and if they're on their game on the day, we're gonna have a real hard battle.
Well, they did concede 4 goals to Deji Oshiolaja's Mansfield Town in the FA Cup the other day. As Mark points out, we will get chances. They ship a fair few goals. We desperately need a solid backline on Saturday. That's the thing, isn't it, Mark? I mean, if you look at so obviously taking Chelsea out of the equation, there were some signs of some improvements at times over the last few weeks. I thought we played quite well at Portsmouth. Obviously, Coventry, we played well. We scored twice at Blackburn, although I'd say that was our worst performance out of those 3 games. I mean, there has been some things when we've seen players coming back, but now they're limping out again. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of performance we get from ourselves. We're 5 points above the drop zone. We can't afford to keep dropping points in home games as well. It's not been something we've done consistently. So these are the ones that we'll be targeting to try and pick up points in, because we tend to be pretty good at home. We only lost two games at home in the whole of 2025, didn't we? And they both came, or 3 games right towards the end. So we just have to hope that we can make that home form count again.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, because Nathan had made a big deal about how we'd had back-to-back aways and we've travelled. And then now we've got homes coming up back-to-back. And we do have to make it count. As I said earlier, I feel, a different beast at home. And I think if you go back to the Coventry game, and I seriously think that we could have won that and deservedly won it. And we decided a draw was fair because obviously Coventry had their chances. and then the performance we'd actually put in at Birmingham as well to get a draw there, where everyone, not many people giving us a sniff up there. So there have been signs in a lot of games where we can do the right thing. What we're struggling to do is concentrate for 90 minutes, and that's been the issue, which, I'd bring Rankin Cancelo back straight away, and I think possibly the only reason he was brought out is, one, Nathan's feeling a bit bad about dropping his skipper in dock, but also protecting Rankin Cancelo a bit from having to be in a bit of a battle against Chelsea. So it's a tough one, but I think like I said to you earlier, I think we do have enough, and it's just seeing on Saturday which square peg is going into that round hole.
Right, well, we will see. Let's find out a little bit more about our opponents this weekend. I'd like to say that Nick from the Sheffield United Way pod joins us. Good evening, Nick. Thanks for your time. How's it going?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you very much. Really pleased to have you on the show this evening. What can you tell us then about Sheffield United's season? Obviously, when we faced each other earlier on in the campaign, it was a different story to where we are now. You've picked up certainly under Chris Wilder. You're still only 3 points ahead of us, which says how badly you did at the start of the season, because we've sort of gone the opposite way, really. I mean, what's it been like over the last few months?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. We seem to score 3 goals in every single game. Even when we lose, we tend to score 3 goals, which is absolutely crazy. But no, I think when we played you guys, it was Chris Wilder's first game back. And I think we all expected that first game to go very, very much differently. It didn't. There was a bit of teething issues at the start under Chris Wilder this season, but we've picked up. We had a little bit of a purple patch where we thought we'd turned a corner, and then we had a few games, a bit of a stuttering middle, and then we've flown since then. 7 wins out of the last 10 in the league. That is, obviously we lost against Mansfield, which wasn't in the script, but we did change 10 players in that game, and it's one of the things. I don't think we're that bothered about the cup. The league seems to be. It seemed to be a pipe dream getting into the playoffs, sort of 10, 15 games ago. But now, it's doable. Coventry did it last season. There's no reason to suggest that we can't do it with the form that we're in. We just need to keep up that form.
Yeah, 9 points behind with a game in hand on some of those sides above you. What did Chris Wilder do that Ruben Sayers wasn't doing then, and wasn't doing to quite a spectacular extent in those first few games?
It's hard to say, really, because it felt like Ruben Sayers wasn't really backed by the board. It felt like we were just saying to him, go on, take it from where Chris Wilder left it off. But we did lose Anel Ahmedhodzic, who's been our, probably best centre back for 3 or 4 years, something like that. And then Vinny Souza was our defensive destroyer in the midfield, and he was. At that point, I think we thought irreplaceable. Jairo Riedewald certainly stepped into that, his shoes and done really well since. But, we've brought in a lot of players. I think for the most part, we brought in Louis Barre, who didn't hit the ground running. We brought in Tyler Binden, who's now playing well. But certainly at the time, I think we started the season with a left back at centre back who we've moved on. I'm trying to remember who the left back was that day. I think it was Harrison Burrows, but we were so disjointed. It felt like in pre-season we'd won a lot of games against a lot of rubbish teams, and I think we all expected more. And then we just got run through time and time again, conceded so many goals that really knocked the confidence. We weren't creating enough chances. We weren't scoring any goals. And in those first 6 games under Ruben Sayers, it didn't look like we were even going to fashion a chance away from home. And then now, under Wilder, like I said, we're scoring lots and lots of goals, which wasn't actually the case last season. We did win a lot of games of football last season, but we won them all sort of 1-0 and 2-1. This season, it's like Chris Wilder's took the handbrake off and just been like, go and do what you need to do. And we're scoring lots of goals, and conceding lots of goals as well, as I mentioned earlier on. But I don't really know what Wilder has done, what Ruben Sayers hadn't, but he's certainly got more players at his disposal, because at the end of Ruben Sayers' tenure, we'd brought in a lot of players. We panic bought a lot of players, or panic loaned as well, round about, the deadline day. And then Ruben Sayers, I think he had one game after that and he was gone. So I think bringing in more players, more quality players, and obviously Wilder's already got that, really good relationship with most of the players from the season before.
Hey, Nick, that's what I was going to say, because it did seem from the outside that your players are just really down tools for Sayers. And with Wilder coming in, he's brought some unity back, and we saw how pleased they were to have him. Looking for Saturday, where do you think your biggest threat on a pitch will actually come from?
It's hard to say, really, because our best player in the squad technically is Gus Harmer, but he's not actually getting the game time that he probably wishes he is. And I don't know whether that's got anything to do with how he's playing, because he's either incredible or he's just not really doing a lot, and he's putting a lot of hopeful balls into the box. It's a weird sort of period of time for Gus, because, like I say, against Mansfield, he scored an absolute screamer, but did nothing else other than that. So Callum O'Hare has been our best player this season. He's created a lot. He's scored a lot of goals. I think last season, by the end of the season, before the playoffs, he'd scored like 2 or 3 goals. He doubled that already, if not more. I think he scored 6 or 7 goals, and he's created a load as well. So Callum O'Hare is certainly going to be a big part in this game if we're going to get anything from it. Andre Brooks is a young lad coming through the academy. He's flattered to deceive in recent seasons and been in and out, very, very ineffectual at times, but he's starting to put some games together. He's a fantastic footballer, plays on the right, cutting in on his left. We've got Femi Sariki, who plays right back, that links up with him really well. So I think if we're going to get anything from this game, it'll be down that right-hand side, predominantly where we'll cause you problems. Patrick Bamford, I'm sure, will be playing up front, and since he's come in, he's been a revelation. I think, speaking for most Blades, we didn't like Patrick Bamford, and he came in and he's won the fans round instantly. And you know what? If a player comes in and scores goals, they're always going to win you round, and that's what he did. And the fans are taken to him. Wilder loves him now, and he's certainly cemented himself as that number one striker. So I think it'll come from Harmer if he plays, O'Hare, Brooks, Sarike, Bamford. Those are the key areas for us going forward.
Nick, welcome. I'm smiling on the outside, but crying on the inside, because you'll see firsthand that our weaker area is our left-hand side in defence. So you might have a bit of a field day down there come Saturday. But conversely to Mark's question, your form has been a bit inconsistent. Fantastic win ratio in the last 10 games, but you've been conceding quite a few goals as well. So what are your weaker areas? If there were a player or two that you could take out and replace with better quality, who would we be targeting in terms of your weaknesses in defence?
So left back this season, Sam McCallum's been fantastic. However, Harrison Burrows last season was the mainstay. Fantastic football, looked ready to play Premier League football, and then he massively seems to have gone in his shell, and we don't really know what's happened there. Sam McCallum is a good left back, but he got kind of found out a little bit against Wrexham when they were playing, big balls into the box, balls to the back stick. Tyler Binden struggled big time at centre back against the likes of Kiefer Moore, who we knew all too well about. We've obviously got Tanganga at centre back, who's a colossal centre back, that great leader. But Tyler Binden next to him, he has some good games, he has some bad games. So I think Tyler, I'm trying to think now, because they've both switched at times. I think Tyler plays on as a left centre back. They're both right-footed, obviously, but Tyler plays on that left centre back role, I believe. So I would say down our left-hand side, same as you guys. But I don't know why we're conceding goals. I really don't. And I think it's usually when I'm discounting the Mansfield game, because, again, 10 changes. So the defence will be a completely different team to what the Mansfield game was. But, it's only been an odd game where we've been conceding like a lot of goals, we've also kept some good clean sheets as well. I think the other thing to point out is that Michael Cooper, our goalkeeper, was phenomenal last season, probably the second best goalkeeper to James Trafford. Is not been as good this season, and there's big rumours, and actually people have reported on this, that he's suffering with injuries. Not quite too sure what it is, but I think that's really impacting his movement to get to certain shots or even long shots and things like that. So I think goalkeeper, we could be struggling there, and like I say, down that left hand side.
Well, there we go. Let's get over to the left wing and shoot on sight. Then that's my game plan for Saturday. Nick, cheers for your time this evening, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you.
There we go. That's Nick from the Sheffield United Way. Joined us on tonight's show. Mark says we recommend that they should go down their left-hand side a bit more. Then, well, I mean, if you're a footballer, you always hear when players sign for like another club, I want to challenge myself. So don't take the easy route down the side where we're injured. Go down the difficult route and show that you can make it against a player who's defending really well for us on Saturday. Mark, there's been so much talk, hasn't there, over the last few weeks about must win and must not lose and all that sort of thing. This is a slightly strange game that Sheffield United are quite near us in the table, but they are. I mean, their form over the last 10 games is ridiculous. They've scored 25 goals in their last 10 Championship games, when the nearest challenger to that was Watford on 18. I mean, clearly this is a bigger test than it was the other day. But you're eyeing up these next two home games, Saturday and then Derby on Tuesday, because Millwall coming up the weekend after. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about that this time next week we'll be preparing for a trip to the Den in the sort of form that we're in at the moment in time, because that's not really what we need at this moment in time. But it makes these next two games really important for us. I mean, like if we can get 4 points out of that, I feel like that would be a strong return. So maybe you're sort of targeting one on Saturday.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had said on the other pod. I'm looking at 4 points over the next two games. I don't think that's defeatist. I think that's realistic. I think Derby are one of those teams who'll turn up and we can do them 3-0 quite easily. Sheffield United, different kettle of fish because of their attacking and they do like scoring. It's funny because he was talking about Hamer, who was playing for them, but everyone was worried about him when we played them up at their place, and we actually sort of like kept him pretty quiet. I think if you took 4 points out of the next two games, and then you look for a green shoot, like if Matty Godden makes it on the bench on Saturday, that will be a lift to the ground. It will be a lift to the crowd. I think he will just get a reception. Even if he comes on for 15 minutes at the end, I think that will just lift everybody. Would I take a draw? If you offer me a draw with Sheffield United now, yes, I'd take it, because I don't want the alternative. I don't want us to lose, concede, and have Nathan complaining that we didn't do the basics right again. And I think we can give them a game, and if it finishes at 3-3, wow, we've scored 3 at home again. It'd be nice. Yeah, we've let in 3. If it finishes like that, I would take that, because I would look at that as, hey, we can score 3 against Sheffield United. Let's take it on to Derby and let's carry on with the momentum.
Yeah, as Joe says in the chat, them scoring 3 goals a game, we can only dream about that. Our final third play needs to improve. So maybe Saturday will be the day that we go for it. Sam says, you really have to be picking up 6 points, especially at home, but 4 is okay. Mark says 4 from these two would be class. Yeah, and the other Mark says the fact they've scored 25 goals in their last 10 games is a concern, but someone's got to put a stop to that. Maybe it'll be us on Saturday. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview. Don't forget to check out our merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com, if you want to pick up your Charlton Live mugs. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press your notification button wherever you see it so you never miss another show. Also, you can subscribe to the audio version of the pod no matter where you see it as well. Leave a comment below the video as well if you've enjoyed today's show. If you want to have a conversation with some fellow enthusiasts in the comment section, feel free to do so. But yeah, leave a comment below the video as well. It gives us more engagement, which means more people will be able to watch the show as well. Right, Mark and Paul, thank you for battling through with your voices, particularly Paul. But yeah, thanks to both of you.
You're welcome, Bob.
Absolute pleasure. Let's make the Valley raucous on Saturday and be that 12th man to get some points on the board.
Yeah, although you're excused from that, Paul, if you need to rest your voice. But
Oh,
yeah,
no, I never. For Charlton, I'll go through every battle I need to be there and be vocal.
Lovely stuff. Right, I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Don't forget, we'll be back live on YouTube 10 a.m. on Sunday morning to look back at the Sheffield United game and ahead to Tuesday's game with Derby. We shall see you then.